Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Read With Me. Awesome. So happy that you're here. So happy that you made it. Wishing you the best, always and forever. I gotta tell you, this week has been crazy good. Crazy good. I'm very, very grateful for the past week. Just a couple of wins to share. Um, Well, we actually shared with the community, with the Billionaire community. If you haven't joined, make sure to do so. It's in the description below. So we had our first Billionaire of the month, and we're super, super pumped because whenever we're able to really celebrate someone else, it really, at least for Vanessa and I, it really just it magnifies our purpose. It magnifies the reason why we continuously do what we do, and why we show up every day. So the ability to see someone else get super pumped and just feel really happy and recognized and all the different aspects that come with it, it's just like, it's so nice because behind closed doors, there's so many moving parts, right? And as a business owner, you're constantly thinking, okay, what can I do? How can I make this better? What can we improve on? How can we do this? How can we do that? And then having the ability to have a platform to actually do that, that's a blessing on its own. So just being able to reward somebody for putting in the work, showing up consistently, getting the results that they want, like that makes us so happy because there's only like 3% of the population that actually does the work, you know? That's why so many courses fail. That's why so many coaching programs have bad experience. That's why so many services have bad experiences, is because only 3% of people actually do what they say they were going to do. Like, I'm going to wake up and go to the gym and read book and finish this, finish that, finish that. It's all part of that 3% mentality. If you can accomplish all of that and you are able to just continuously build up that muscle of accomplishment, then there's literally nothing that can stop you, because once you start building that confidence within yourself, now it just creates a whole new version of you. You escalate to a different level within yourself. Now the competition is just you. So I know that was a really intense opening to this, but this week has really been just a blessing, from ending the year or ending January very, very strong. It's my birthday month, so it's like we got to do something really powerful to, just rewarding someone and getting everything up and running. We have a Discord group now that is open to anyone that's looking to gain personal and financial freedom, through the development of their mind, body, and soul. Okay, so if you're interested in that, make sure to check that out, because now that Discord group actually allows us to reach more people, just like this channel. If you are liking these videos, make sure to like, subscribe, share, all of that, because it actually helps us reach more of you, amazing people like yourself that are watching this. So make sure to do so. And without further ado, I'm so pumped to actually dive into the book. So if you don't know, we've been actually reading one book on personal freedom and one book on financial freedom each month. And our goal is to read 22 books for 2022. So we're on our second book, The first book that we read was Rich Dad Poor Dad. Now we're diving deep into the Cashflow Quadrant. And every single week we have a recap session where we actually dive into the chapters that we read. So it's like, it's not a book club. I honestly feel like book clubs have it wrong. And if you do have a book club, please join our Discord. I would love to hear from you. Because the reason I say that is because, I mean, I've been part of a book club and it was kind of like, all right, Tim, it's your turn to read. Or like, what'd you get out of that chapter? And then it just sounds so like mellow and like, I don't know. It wasn't the best experience. Like I mentioned, the 3%, right? So what we wanted to create is a dynamic interaction between people. So it involves questions, it involves exercises that people are just like rocking it with. And that's how we actually determine the billionaire of the month, because it's through the doing, it's through the implementation of the exercises, of all the step-by-step processes that we share, that you get results. And then we reward that amazing human being with an amazing prize. Like the first prize was a crazy. Okay. So if you guys have been to Chicago, you guys know that there's like two really awesome hotels. Okay. We stayed at the Langham for like a week. It was awesome. Like we're like, oh, I love Chicago. And it was really because the Langham. Great experience, great staff. Just overall, it was amazing. But then there's another one. Okay. That's a 5-star hotel. But then there's a different level where you feel like, oh, okay. So because we are all here billionairettes and we want to experience everything, we want to experience the best of the best, we decided to get a day spa trip for the first prize winner. Includes a massage, includes all of the facilities in the peninsula of Chicago. So, I mean, that hotel is just like remarkable. Like the finishes, the environment, the way they treat you, all of those little environmental like leveling up allows your mind to understand that you cannot see money with your eyes. Just like Robert is saying, and this is what chapter 6 is all about. That's why I'm sharing this with you guys, because it's like, if you are consistently just stuck in your own little bubble, if you're stuck in this maybe 9 to 5, maybe you're stuck in your coaching program that you're currently working, you're constantly looking for leads, you're constantly trying to get new clients, you're constantly just doing the grind all over again. You get burned out. Okay, let's be honest. That's what one of the things that Robert mentioned, that in the S quadrant, this is what happens with the S quadrant people. They take control of the situation. They're like, I'm going to knock this out. This is all for me. You know what? The house is burning. No problem. I got it. I'm going to shut it down and I'm going to take care of it. Don't worry. Like all the pressure is put on you, all of it. And now, because you voiced it, you put that initiative, you've said that you're going to do it, all of that. Now it's time to do it, right? And what he's mentioning is like most S's don't know how to delegate, don't know how to give someone else an opportunity to rise up, or they just lack the leadership skills necessary for you to pass on the torch for someone else to take on that task. And now you're able to really just maneuver that whole situation versus being in the burning house, you know? It's a skill set. It's a very large transition. That's why we've made and we've chosen specific books to share with our audience. You know, we've worked with coaches for like about 5 years now, from all over the world that are looking to grow their business online and have the freedom and independence to live their life on their own terms. And it's through the awareness that you can do these things, or if you just did this little tweak here, if you can do this, now you can do that. Now you're able to do that without having to, invest in some guru or some course or some program. Like we just hated that whole side of the coaching field, or coaching space. Like everyone has a course, everyone has a program, everyone has that. Like get into the Billionaire inner circle, get access to a community. That's what we're focused on. Get access to a community, network with amazing coaches from all over the world, learn on a weekly basis through the exercises that we're putting in. Also do the daily read with me's, and if you're putting in the work, if you're getting the results, if you're showing up consistently and you're looking to rise up, you're going to get rewarded and get a whole, day spa at the peninsula, which is awesome. So, we're super pumped for what's to come. This is only the beginning. And if you're watching this video until now, you're probably thinking like, okay, let's get into this book. You're right. I'm thinking the same thing, but I felt the need. Okay. I felt the need, the burning desire to share that with you, because if you don't know, now you know. And it's my responsibility to share with you some of the opportunities that are available to you. So make sure to hit like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you want to hear more about this, because that's what this channel is all about. It's personal and financial freedom and the tools to do so. We're actually looking to bring in some experts on the personal and financial freedom sector. So stay tuned. This channel is going to be growing, it's going to be developing, and it's going to be really, really powerful. So without further ado, okay, let's dive into it, shall we? All right, so if you have your book, it's the Cashflow Quadrant, Chapter 6, okay? Chapter 6 in my book is 119, page 119. So if you have the physical book, you can go ahead and use that. And the chapter is called "You Cannot See Money with Your Eyes." Okay. So starts off with, money is an idea that is more clearly seen with your mind. Interesting. Shall we? In late 1974, I purchased a small condominium on the fringes of Waikiki as one of my first investment properties. The price was $56,000 for a cute 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit in an average building. It was a perfect rental unit, and I knew it would rent quickly. I drove to my rich dad's office, all excited about showing him the deal. He glanced at the documents, and in less than 1 minute, he looked up and said, "How much money are you losing a month?" And then I said, "About $100 a month." And then my rich dad was like, "Son, don't be foolish." He's like, "I haven't gone over the numbers, but I can already tell from the written documents that you're losing much more than that. And besides, why in the world would you knowingly invest into something that loses money?" "Well," I said, "the unit looked nice, and I thought it was a good deal. A little paint, and the place would be as good as new." I said, "Well," my rich dad was like, "that doesn't justify knowing losing money." Okay. He mentioned, "Well, my real estate agent said," or I said, "My real estate agent said not to worry about losing money every month. He said that in a few years, the price of the unit will actually double. In addition, the government gives me a tax break on that money I lose. And besides, it was such a good deal that I was afraid someone else would buy it if I didn't." Rich Dad stood and closed his office door. When he did that, I knew I was about to be chewed out as well as be taught an important lesson. I'd been through these types of educational sessions before. And he was like, listen, so how much money are you losing a month? And then I was like, extremely nervous, about $100. Well, Rich Dad shook his head as he scanned the documents. The lesson was about to begin. Dun, 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 dun. On that day, I learned more about money and investing than I had in all of my 27 years of life. Rich Dad was happy that I took the initiative and invested in a property, but I'd made some grave mistakes that could have been a financial disaster. However, the lesson I learned from that one investment have made me millions over the years. He continues with, money is seen with your mind. It's not what your eyes see, said Rich Dad. A piece of real estate is a piece of real estate. A company stock certificate is a company's stock certificate. You can see those things, but it's not what you can't see that's important. It's the deal, the financial agreement, the market, the management, the risk factors, the cash flow, the corporate structuring, the tax laws, and 1,000 other things that make something a good investment or not. He then proceeded to tear the deal apart with questions. Why would you pay such a high interest rate? What do you figure your return on investment would be? How does this investment fit into your long-term financial strategy? What vacancy factor are you using? What is your cap rate? Have you checked the association's history of assessments? Have you figured in management costs? What percentage rate did you use to compute repairs? Did you know that the city has just announced it will be tearing up the roads in that area and changing the traffic pattern? A major thoroughfare will run right in front of your building. Residents are moving to avoid the year-long project. Did you know that? I know the market trend is up today, but did you know what is driving that trend? Business economics or greed? How long do you think the trend will continue up? What happens if this place doesn't rent? And if it doesn't, how long can you keep this place and yourself afloat? And again, what goes in your head to make you think that losing money is a good deal? This really has me worried. Wow. Talk about great questions. Great questions here. It looked like a good deal, I said, deflated. Rich Dad smiled, stood up, and shook my hand. Well, I'm glad you took action, he said. Most people think, but never do. If you do something, you make mistakes, and it's from our mistakes that we learn the most. Remember that anything important can't really be learned in the classroom. It must be learned by taking action, making mistakes, and then correcting them. That's when wisdom sets in. I felt a little better and was ready to learn. Rich Dad went on to explain that people look at a piece of real estate or the name of a stock and often make their decisions based on what their eyes see, what a broker tells them, or on a hot tip from a fellow worker. They often buy emotionally instead of rationally. That's why 9 out of 10 investors don't make money, said Rich Dad. While they might not lose money, they don't make any either. They just sort of break even, making some and losing some. That's because they invest with their eyes and emotion rather rather than with their minds. Many people invest because they want to get rich quickly. So instead of becoming investors, they wind up being dreamers, hustlers, gamblers, and crooks. The world is filled with them. So let's sit down, go back over this losing deal you just bought, and I'll teach you how to turn it into a winning deal. I'll begin to teach your mind to see what your eyes can't. Wow. I want to interrupt and I want to share this with somebody. And if you're Spanish, okay, you might know this phrase. Okay, so I had this, well, my tia Vicky, okay, which my name is Isabel Cristina Vicky, and she fought for that one because I'm like the first baby that popped out, you know. She was like so intense sometimes. She's like, whenever we went to like the grocery store, I remember being at Costco, and she would always has this phrase, and she would tell my brother and I, she's like, touch with your eyes and see with your hands. And I'm like, touch with my eyes and see with my hands? Like, what the hell? It was so awkward, you know? And she was so adamant about that, which just means like, don't be touching anything, okay? And don't be picking up anything, because I guess I wasn't like that, but my brother, he would like pick things up and, you know, put it somewhere else or whatever. So yeah, it just made me remember that particular thing. But that's a really, really strong point there. Like 9 out of 10 investors don't make money. It reminds me so much of what he mentioned about business owners. 9 out of 10 don't make it. They literally don't last 5 years. 9 out of 10 business owners are out of business within their first 5 years. And then after the 5 years, it's actually half of that don't even make it to the next 10 or even 7 years. So it's a really, really interesting topic here. Shall we? From bad to good. The next morning, I went back to the real estate agent, rejected the deal as it stood, and reopened negotiation. It wasn't a pleasant process, but I learned a lot. 3 days later, I returned to see Rich Dad. The price of the condo stayed the same, and the agent got his full commission because he deserved it. But while the price remained the same, the terms of the investment were vastly different. By renegotiating the interest rate, payment terms, and the amortization period, instead of losing money, I was now certain of making a net profit of $80 per month, even after the management fee and the allowance for vacancy was factored in. I could even lower my rent and still make money if the market went bad. I could definitely raise the rent if the market got better. I estimated that you were going to lose at least $150 per month, said Rich Dad, probably even more. If you had continued to lose $150 per month on your salary and expenses, how many of these deals could you even afford? I replied, barely one, okay? Most months, I don't even have an extra $150. If I had done the original deal, I would have struggled financially every single month, even after my taxes and all the breaks that I get. I might even had to take out an extra job just to pay for this investment. And now, how many of these deals at 80% positive, $80 positive cash flow can you afford? Asked Rich Dad. Well, I smiled again and said, as many as I can get my hands on. Rich Dad nodded in approval. Now, go out there and get your hands on more of them. A few years later, the real estate prices in Hawaii did skyrocket. But instead of having only one property go up in value, it had 7 double in value. That is the power of a little financial intelligence. That is so powerful. You know, how many of you have have invested into something, okay, and you just didn't know that you were actually losing money, and you didn't know who to seek out for guidance or for someone to actually take a look at the strategy behind it. I think that's what is really tough, because yes, Robert had his rich dad and he was able to look at it from a different lens, but I think it's the ability to actually to connect with people that are in different fields than you and have the courage to ask them for help. I think that's where a lot of people fall short, especially in the S quadrant. We're so connected to like what we want to do, how we want to do it, how it needs to be done, that you lose track of what a B or a business owner does, or an investor does. They don't depend on just themselves, they actually depend on other people to get the job done and to make sure that it gets done right. So just taking that into consideration, I think that'd be really powerful. So he continues, you can't do it. When I took my new offer back to the real estate agent, all he said to me was, you can't do that. What took the longest time was convincing the agent to start thinking about how we could do what I wanted done. In any event, there were many lessons I learned from this one investment. And one of those lessons was to realize that when someone says to you, you can't do that, they may have one finger pointing forward at you, but three fingers pointing backward at them. So it's like this. These three are pointing back at me if I point at you. Rich Dad taught me that you can't do it doesn't necessarily mean you can't. It more often means they can't. A classic example took place many years ago when people told the Wright brothers, you can't do it. Thank goodness the Wright brothers didn't listen, right? They're the ones that came up with the airplane. $1.4 trillion looking for a home. Every day, trillions of dollars are moved around the planet electronically. There is more money being created and available today than ever before. The problem is that money is invisible. Today, the bulk of it is electronic. So when people look for money with their eyes, they fail to see anything. Most people struggle to live paycheck to paycheck, and yet $1.4 trillion flies around the world every day looking for someone who wants it. It's looking for someone who knows how to take care of it, nurture it, and grow it. And if you know how to take care of money, money will flock to you and be thrown at you. People will begin to beg for you to take it. But if you don't know how to take care of your money, money will stay away from you. Remember Rich Dad's definition of financial intelligence. It's not how much money you make, but how much money you can keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you can keep that money. The blind leading the blind. The average person is 95% eyes and only 5% mind when they invest, said Rich Dad. If you want to become a professional in the B and I quadrants, you need to train your eyes to be only 5% and train your mind to see the other 95%. Rich Dad went to explain that people who train their minds to see money have tremendous power over people who don't. He was so adamant about whom I took financial advice from. The reason most people struggle financially is because they take advice from people who are also mentally blind to money. It's the classic tale of the blind leading the blind. If you want money to come to you, you must know how to take care of it. So if money isn't first in your head, it won't stick to your hands. If it doesn't stick to your hands, then money, and people will actually stay away from you. Let me read that again. If money isn't first in your head, it won't stick to your hands. If it doesn't stick to your hands, then money and people with money will stay away from you. Train your brain to see money. So what is the first step in training your brain to see money? The answer is easy. It's financial literacy. It begins with the ability to understand the words and the number systems of capitalism. If you don't understand the words or the numbers, you might as well be speaking a foreign language. And in many cases, each quadrant represents a foreign language. If you look at Cashflow Quadrant, each quadrant is like a different country. They don't all use the same words. And if you don't understand the words, you won't understand the numbers. And he goes into like the E, the S, the B, I, those are the cash flow quadrants that he's talking about. So for example, if a medical doctor says your systolic is 120 and your diastolic is 80, is that good or bad? Is that all you need to know for your health? The answer is obviously no, but it's a start. It's like asking, my stock's PE is 12 and my apartment's rate is 12. Is that all I need to know for my health, for my wealth? Again, the answer is no, but it's a start. At least we're beginning to speak the same words and use the same numbers. And that is the beginning of financial literacy, which is the basis of financial intelligence. It starts with knowing the words and numbers. The doctor is speaking from the S quadrant, and the investor is speaking with words and numbers of the I quadrant. They might as well be speaking different languages. I disagree when someone says to me, it takes money to make money. In my opinion, the ability to make money begins with understanding the words and the numbers. As my rich dad always said, if money is not first in your head, it won't stick to your hands. Know what real risk is. The second step in training your brain to see money and to learn to recognize what real risk is. When people say to me that investing is risky, I simply say, hey, investing is not risky. Being uneducated is risky. Investing is much like flying. If you've been to flight school and spent a number of years gaining experience, then flying is fun and really exciting. But if you've never been to flight school, I'd leave the flying to someone else. True. Bad advice is risky. Rich Dad firmly believed that any financial advice was better than no financial advice. He was a man with an open mind. He was courteous and listened to many people, but he relied ultimately on his own financial intelligence to make his decisions. If you don't know anything, then any advice is better than no advice. But you can't tell the difference between bad advice and good advice. That's when it's risky. The discernment, ladies and gentlemen, the discernment to understand what is wrong and what is right. That is the secret sauce right here. Rich Dad firmly believed that most people struggle financially because they operate on financial information handed down from parent to child, and most people don't come from financially sound families. He often said, bad financial advice is risky, and most of the bad advice is handed out at home. Not from what is said, but from what is done. Children learn by example more than they learn through words. Your advisors are only as smart as you. Rich Dad said, hey, your advisors can only be as smart as you are. If you are not smart, they can't tell you that much. If you are financially well-educated, competent advisors can give you more sophisticated financial advice. If you are financially naive, they must by law, offer you only safe and secure financial strategies. If you are an unsophisticated investor, they can only offer you low risk, low yield investments. They often recommend diversification for unsophisticated investors. Few advisors choose to take the time to teach you because their time is money. So if you will take it upon yourself to become financially educated and manage your money well, then a competent advisor can inform you about investment and strategies that few will ever see. But first, you must do your part to get educated. Always remember, your advisors can only be as smart as you. So you must get financially educated. It happened to us. Like it's still like we're in the process of finding a new tax person, a CPA firm that understands how to manage real estate and how to manage crypto. And it's incredible. Like our past firm, they had no clue. Like we were the ones asking them, hey, do you know how to do the 1031 exchange? Like, how can we manage this? How can we write this off? How can we, depreciate this? Are we able to just cancel this out? Like all these questions that are like legitimate questions that from the tax code you can do. And all they kept saying was no, 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 no. I'm like, have you guys even tried? You know what I'm saying? Like, have you even tried? That's the difference. A true financial advisor or a true CPA or a true professional, just plain out, a true professional is open-minded. A true professional is willing to learn. And a true professional will bridge that gap of information and connect the dots. How can I go from point A to point B? And what did I do in that scenario? How did I build this bridge? How is that information translated to others? Going to that type of level of delivery is really critical, because now he's going to go into something that, again, the S quadrant is really, really just like blindly going into. He goes into, is your banker lying to you? Rich Dad had several bankers he dealt with. They were an important part of his financial team. While he was close friends with and respected his bankers, he always felt he had to watch out for his own best interests, just as he expected the bankers to look out for their own best interests. After my 1974 investment experience, he asked me this. When a banker says that your house is an asset, is he telling you the truth? Since most people are not financially literate and don't know the game of money, they often must take the opinion of and advice of people they tend to trust. If you're not financially literate, then you need to trust someone you hope is. Many people invest or manage their money based on someone else's recommendations more than their own, and that is risky. Wow, that whole thing is really intense. If you're not financially literate, then you need to trust someone you hope is. Many people invest or manage their money based on someone else's recommendations more than their own, and that is extremely risky. And then he goes into saying, they're not lying. They're just not telling you the whole truth. The fact is that when a banker says that your house is an asset, they're not really lying to you. They're just not telling you the whole truth. While your house is an asset, they simply don't say whose asset it is. Strong. If you read financial statements, it's easy to see that your house is not your asset. It is the bank's asset. Remember, my Rich Dad's definitions of an asset and a liability from the first book that we actually read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. People on the left side don't really need to know the difference. Most of them are happy to feel secure in their jobs, have a nice house they think they own. They're proud of it, and they think they are in control of it. Nobody will take it away from them as long as they make those payments. But people on the right side need to know the difference. Being financially literate and financially intelligent means being able to understand the big picture of money. Financially astute people know that a mortgage doesn't show up as an asset, but it actually shows up as a liability on your balance sheet. Your mortgage actually shows up as an asset on a balance sheet across town. It shows up as an asset on the bank's balance sheet. Lord, y'all, your house right now is someone else's asset column. Anyone who has taken accounting knows that a balance sheet must balance. But where does it balance? It doesn't really balance on your balance sheet. Look at this picture. Okay, it shows like the little house is literally under the asset column for the bank. Okay, that's funny. If you take a look at the bank's balance sheet, now it balances. Now it makes sense. That is B&I accounting. But this is not the only way it's taught in basic accounting. In accounting, you show the value of your home as an asset, and the mortgage is a liability. Also, an important point to know is that the value of your home is an option that fluctuates with the market, while your mortgage is a definite liability not affected by the market. For a B&I, the value of your home is not considered an asset, but it does not generate. Okay, so because it doesn't generate cash flow, it is not considered an asset for a B and an I. Obviously, that's strong. What happens if you pay off your mortgage? Many people ask me, what happens if I pay off my mortgage? Is my house an asset then? And my reply is, in most cases, the answer is still no. It's still a liability. There are several reasons why this is true. One is maintenance and general upkeep. Property is like a car. Even if you own it free and clear, it still costs money to operate. And once things start to break, everything begins to break. In most cases, people pay for repairs on their house and their car after tax dollars. A person in the B and I quadrants only includes property as an asset if it generates income through positive cash flow. But the main reason a house, even without a mortgage, is still a liability is because you still don't own it. The government still taxes you even if you own it. Just stop paying your property taxes and you'll find out who really owns your property. That's so true. If you live in Austin, Texas, we had an amazing office. We got like 3 or 4 different apartments and we were like Airbnb-ing them. Crazy. That's a long story, but in a different video. That was awesome. Property taxes are heavy in Austin, Texas, and they're continuously rising up, even though there's no like state tax or income tax or something like that. I have to take a look at the exact thing, but it's kind of like Florida where there's no tax. That's why we decided to go to Austin. Those property taxes, they just come out of the blue. And when you've never paid property taxes, they're just like, why does someone want all this money for something that is, here? But anyways, if you do own a home, you know exactly what we're talking about here. Okay, if you don't know about your property taxes, he goes into saying, well, if you stop paying for it, you'll understand who actually owns that property. It's not you. You're kind of just renting it out and you're paying a lot of money for it. That is where tax lien certificates come from, which I wrote about in Rich Dad Poor Dad. Tax lien certificates are an excellent way to receive up to 16% interest on your money. If homeowners don't pay their property taxes, the government charges them interest on their taxes owed at rates from 10% to 50%. Talk about being taken to the cleaners, right? If you don't pay for the property taxes and someone like me pays them for you, then in many states, you owe me the taxes plus the interest. If you don't pay me with a certain amount of time, I get to take your house just for the money I put up. In most states, property taxes take priority in repayment, even before the bank's mortgage. I've had the opportunity to buy houses I paid the taxes on just for a few $1,000s. That's strong. Just one side note, when I was in architecture school in downtown Fort Lauderdale, I would go to the courthouse in downtown Fort Lauderdale, shout out to Florida, downtown Fort Lauderdale, FAU. And I actually bought a home, okay, doing like what is that called? It's like an auction. I went to the auction and then I was able to buy a couple properties through the company I was working with, and it was so much fun. But looking back on it, everyone that was buying a house that was literally 2, 3, 4 bedroom houses, like single family homes, they were paying like $5,000. I only wrote a $5,000 check. And that house, it was sold after that. I remember it was like $136,000. And it was like a 2 bedroom house. So people are just getting the right deals at the right place at the right time. You just got to be there. And at that time, I was just a body that company used to go there and be like, I want it, because they need multiple different bodies to go to those auctions, to go to those opportunities and get those assets quickly. So that was a great experience. And now that I'm like literally seeing it again, I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to go to Florida. Get some actions. So the definition of real estate. Again, to be able to see money, you must see it with your mind, not your eyes. In order to train your mind, you must know the real definitions of words and the system of numbers. By now, you should know the difference between an asset, a liability, and you should know the definition of the word mortgage, which is an agreement until death, and the word finance, which means penalty. You will now learn the origin of the words real estate and a popular financial vehicle called derivatives. Many people think derivatives are new, but in reality, they're old. A simple definition of a derivative is something that comes from something else. An example of a derivative is orange juice. Orange juice is a derivative of an orange. I used to think that my real estate meant real or something that was tangible. My rich dad explained to me that it really comes from the Spanish word real, which means royal. El camino real means the royal road. Real estate means the royal estate. Once the agrarian age came to the end and the industrial age began around 1500, power was no longer based on the land and agriculture. The monarchs realized they had to change in response to the land reform acts that allowed peasants to own the land. So royalty created derivatives, such as taxes on land ownership and mortgages, as a way of allowing commoners to finance their land. Taxes and mortgages are derivatives because they are derived from land. Your banker would not call the mortgage a derivative. They would say it is secured by the land. Different words, similar meanings. So once royalty realized that the money was no longer in the land, but in the derivatives that came from the land, the monarchs set up banks to handle the increased business. Today, land is still called real estate because no matter how much you pay for it, it never really belongs to you. It belongs to the royals. So what is your interest rate, really? Rich Dad fought and negotiated tough every single point of interest he paid. He asked me this question. When a banker tells you your interest rate is 8% per annum, is it really? I found out it's not if you learn to read numbers. Let's say you buy a $100,000 home, make a down payment of $20,000 and borrow the remaining $80,000 at 8% interest with a 30-year term from your bank. In 5 years, you will pay a total of $35,220 to the bank, $31,276 for the interest, and only $3,944 for debt reduction. If you take the loan to term or 30 years, you will have paid $211,000, over $211,000 total principal and interest, less than what you originally borrowed, which is $80,000. The total interest you will have paid $131,323. So for that $80,000 that you took out, you would actually pay in just interest $131,321. Wow. By the way, the $211,323 doesn't include property taxes and insurance on the loan, of course. Funny, $131,323 seems to be a little bit more than the 8% of 80,000. It's more like 160% in interest over 30 years. As I said, they're not lying. They're just not telling you the whole truth. And if you can't read numbers, you'd really never know. And if you're happy with your house, you'll never really care. But of course, the industry knows that in a few years, you're going to want a new house, a bigger house, a smaller house, a vacation house, or a refinance on your mortgage. They know it, and in fact, they can count on it. Industry average. In the banking industry, a 7-year average is used as the life expectancy of a mortgage. That means banks expect the average person to buy a new house or refinance every 7 years. And that means, in this example, they expect to get their original $80,000 back every 7 years, plus $43,291 in interest. And that's why it's called a mortgage, which comes from the French word martyr, in agreement, which martyr means in agreement until death. The reality is that most people will continue to work hard, get pay raises, and buy new houses with new mortgages. On top of that, the government gives a tax break to encourage taxpayers to buy more expensive houses, which means higher property taxes for the government. Every time I watch television, I see commercials where a handsome athlete smiles and tells you to take all your credit card debt and roll it into a bill consolidation loan. That way, you can pay off those credit cards and carry a new loan at a low interest rate. They tell you why it's financial intelligence to do this. A bill consolidation loan is a smart move on your part because the government gives you a tax deduction for your interest payments you make on your home mortgage. Viewers thinking they see the light running down to their finance company, refinance their home, pay off their credit cards, and feel as though they are intelligent. A few weeks later, they're shopping and they see a new dress, a new lawnmower, or realize their kid needs a new bicycle or they need to take a vacation because they're exhausted. Well, because they have excellent credit, they pay their bills and their little heart goes pitter patter. And they say to themselves, hey, go on, you deserve it. You can pay it off a little every month. Emotions overpower logic. And the credit card comes out hiding. It just comes out of hiding. And as I said, when bankers say your house is an asset, they're not lying to you. When the government gives you a tax break for being in debt, it is not because they're concerned about your financial future. The government is concerned about its financial future. So when your banker and your accountant and your attorney and your teachers tell you that your house is an asset, they're just, failing to tell you whose asset it truly is. Well, what about savings? Are those assets? Now, your savings they are assets. That's the good news. But again, if you read financial statements, you'll understand the total picture. While it's true that your savings are assets, when you look across town, the bank's balance sheets, your savings show up as a liability. That is what your savings and checkbooks balance look in your asset column. So in your balance sheet, your savings and your checkbooks are under the asset column. But if you take a look at the balance sheet of a bank, your savings and your checkbook balance is a liability. So why are your savings and checkbooks a balance and a liability to the banks? Well, because they have to pay you interest for your money, and it costs them money to safeguard it. If you can grasp the significance of these few drawings and words, you might begin to understand what the eyes cannot see about the game of money. Chapter 6 has 2 parts to it, I believe, or is it 3? Yeah, I believe we're going to continue to chapter 6, part 2 in the next video. But this particular chapter was so filled with information. If you need to watch this video like maybe 2 times, skip over a couple, pause, and take inventory about certain things, I would. I'm actually going to dive deeper within that part and just, take a few nuggets, because that is really affecting the lives of so many people right now. And if you are taking a look at and taking inventory and actively reevaluating how much money is putting back into your pockets versus what's going out, you'll realize that there's a lot more to learn. There's a lot more to implement. And I'll see you in the next video, because it's going to be very, very powerful. And like I mentioned, make sure to hit like, subscribe, share it with someone that can really take this in and really change their life. You're an asset to them. So make sure to do so. I love you. Once again, check out the Billionaire at Inner Circle. There's so much happening. So have a beautiful rest of your day. Be great. Stay financially literate.